What do you do when times are unstable? When we got a war with Iran going on, we got Middle East troubles, we got inflation rates climbing faster than income, we got cost of living increases, we got natural disasters happening all over the place. Man, the weather's lost its mind. And you start to wonder, where's the world going? How do you live fully in unstable times? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to The Honest Path. I'm Jim. He's John.
Hey, yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. It is a conversation about current events, which we normally don't talk that much about, but
Yeah.
it is a conversation about the nature of current events. It's current events that everyone has had their whole lives since the invention of the news.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our quarters this conversation, really excited about it. First will be learning from the past. Again, that kind of there's nothing new with a lot of the stuff we deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Quarter two, start and stay local. Quarter three, master anxiety and worry.
Yeah.
And quarter four, build faith, community, and strength. And this conversation kind of came out to me when I hang out with a few Gen Z guys, and every one of them since the war with Iran has made a joke about getting drafted in World War III.
Oh, yeah.
And they, laugh, ha ha ha. But I go, I mean,
There's some
there's
common
something.
comedy here, and comedy is an
Yes,
anxiety reliever.
yes. So these are scary times, especially, thinking about young men in particular I think about, man, if this AI stuff happened when I was 80, I wouldn't worry about it. I'm going to be dead and gone before this,
Right,
does
right.
anything for me. But young people in general, and young men, if we believe that they're a leadership demographic, have their work cut out for them looking down the barrel of some of this stuff. So hopefully this conversation can be impactful for you and hopeful.
Yeah, so I would say, John, to summarize where this is all going to go, and this was in our 1024 on Tuesday, but we're really going to give you a way to take this broad bandwidth of anxious creating stuff and zero in your focus to the present moment and how to live powerfully in the present moment. I think that's how I would summarize really
Yeah,
where this is going.
I think that's a great summary. It's
All right, let's
perfect.
open up though, John. Speaking of, times, this isn't the first crazy time in world history. So, our first question is, if you could live in any era other than this one, when would you want to be alive?
Mine's kind of a weak answer because it's pretty recent, but it'd be the mid 20th century.
And what does that
If
mean?
I
What are
could,
those years?
well, if I could pick exactly, I would want to be born in 1935.
Okay.
So I'm cognizant through World War II, but I can't go to war.
Oh,
Then
there I see where you're going. Let
maybe
me in
maybe
where
I
the
get
action is,
drafted.
but don't send me into action.
Exactly. I might get in for Korea. That would kind of stink. But
Yeah.
anyway, I love analog
And
technology.
1935 is the Great Depression's pretty well
Yeah,
tapering off by that point. Is that
but
in the middle of it?
I think it's I think it's tapering off. I think the early 30s was mostly the depression.
Yeah, yeah.
But I get tough, still being raised by tough people in a tough area.
You become
And
part of the greatest generation.
exactly by proxy. And I don't even have to I don't have to fight for it.
Wow.
I become a
You're a
writer,
wuss,
right?
man. You are.
I'm a mega wuss. So I know. Writing on a typewriter. I could if I was here, if I was in the Pacific Northwest, man, in like the late 20th century,
Yeah.
oh, it was probably paradise. Glaciers still around, no traffic.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if yeah. So that's the thing is when I think about modern anxieties is I would like to live in that era knowing that everything's okay. Knowing
Mm.
that,
Oh, knowing
the
what you know now.
exactly. But
Well,
if I
that's
was there
cheating.
then I'd
That's
be
cheating.
well, I'm saying I would be just as scared then as I am now, probably,
Yeah.
if I didn't, if when the Cuban Missile Crisis is
Well,
going
sure.
on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they got
but
this here depression going on, and then you come out of that and you
but I just love people were wearing suits all the time. The cars were cooler, man. Cars
yeah.
today kind of stink.
Yeah, the cops have trench coats and suits on with
Yes.
ties with
Everyone
fedoras.
wears,
They wearing a
yeah,
fedora.
hats.
Yeah.
Yep. All right,
Well,
what about you?
that's all very interesting, and mine is kind of a sickening thing. But I'd like to be alive during the Civil War era. Uh,
Mm,
I I don't know why. There's something about me that wants to be in the thick of cultural crisis to help people stay in their right mind and find our way forward. I think I may be really wrong because I am at I hate pain and I hate
mm.
suffering. So I may not be as good at that as I think I would be, but I and to watch Abraham Lincoln lead the country through such a volatile period of time, uh, That is my favorite American history era,
Hmm.
and Abraham Lincoln is my favorite president. And so I'd kind of like to be standing in the Gettysburg Cemetery when he made the Gettysburg Address.
Wow. That's a
That's a
tight group.
dialed in moment right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was like 200 people there, is all.
But can you imagine the heartbreak when he was killed? How would you handle
Oh,
that?
well, you're not going to avoid heartbreak no matter what era you live in. And now we're full circle right back to where we are for
Mm,
this topic, which is we can't avoid a dangerous world. We can't avoid a world in which things happen that we can't control. So that's really what I want to talk about today is how do you have a fruitful life when you are maybe heightenedly aware that there's a lot of vulnerability to the stability of society. Is that what
yeah,
we're
yes, yeah, absolutely. Learning from the past because nothing is new. I'll kick this off with referencing the massive, our longest quote so far in our 1024 from C.S. Lewis.
but it's so
Uh,
stinking good. So I want you to not just refer to it, but pick a portion of it too, to read if you want to. But it is it is a long quote, and it's a quote he made when the atomic bomb was invented, and people started losing their minds, thinking there's going to, every nation's going to nuke each other, and we're going to nuke
yeah.
ourselves into annihilation. That's the context of the quote.
Well, this is, yeah, 1948. So I mean, they just
Yeah,
dropped the bomb basically,
yeah,
and people are freaking out. Now we have this thing. There's this
yeah.
technology that at any moment you could just be smoked off the face of the planet.
Right.
And he basically says, in what way is that different from living in during the plague? And there was a new
Mhm.
plague in London every year, or when there was he's speaking to English
Brits.
people, so
Yeah.
he's saying when Vikings were doing raids up up the rivers, and it could happen at any time.
And they could slit your throat while you sleep.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'll just read the last paragraph. He says, if we're all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing some sensible and human things: praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies, a microbe can do that, but they need not dominate our minds.
He was the first to say, "Don't be a sheep."
He said, wake up, sheeple. That's the full quote.
Wake up, sheeple.
So he talks a lot about, I have a book that where I get a lot of these called The Quotable Lewis.
Oh,
It's a tome. It's 1,000 pages of
a
by topic,
thousand pages?
maybe 800, alphabetical
Would
by
you like to
topic,
be so smart that someday there was 800 pages of quotes from John Ladd
on just stuff. The
on
topics are
anything? Yeah.
alphabetized, and there's, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I get
Wow.
distracted looking for this one. I went for worry and anxiety. He
Yeah.
has 1 point each, one for anxiety, one for worry, and he has seven on William Tyndale and Thomas More.
That's
So
funny.
some of them are a little stacked, but
Yeah.
on this one was on the atomic age.
Yeah.
And anyway, there's one on war also, which I almost included, but he's very keen on the certainty of death. He says one of
Yeah.
the only good things about war is that it takes away the illusion that the modern man has that you're going to live forever.
Yeah.
It's the only good thing about it. So so this is a universal truth, and that a lot of the technologies are new. It's presented in a new way. It's slick and fast,
Yeah.
and it sounds different, but this is a human problem.
Yeah. And every generation believes that the crisis we have is unprecedented. It's
Yeah.
never been like this before. But man, past generations have endured world wars and plagues that killed out an enormous percentage of the population, pandemics, economic crises, the collapse of the stock market, people jumping out of buildings.
Mm.
So when we think, this era we're living in has got to be the most anxiety creating era ever, it really probably isn't even close.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I love learning about the 20th century so much. It was so recent that it's a lot, and there's so much media from it compared to previous eras that it's really
Mm-hmm.
easy to learn about. But you read about a person who, yeah, was born in during the Depression, or was born at the very turn of the century and fought in World War I.
Yeah.
Or if it's really worse in Europe, if they lived in, if they're in France during both of those wars,
Mm.
and you imagine these people and their lives, or people, you imagine people right now in Ukraine, right, being in an invaded country, and what that life is like, what it's like to cook food,
Yeah. Yeah.
and things like that. And then they, years later, in hindsight, beautiful hindsight, they're just they're still there. They survived. Their family survived. they were able to find meaning and peace, at least enough to not go absolutely insane
Hmm.
through those times. So that's the power of this first quarter of looking back to the crises of the past.
When we were talking about what era would you like to live in, I was thinking about that before we got on to record. And I was thinking about, American Revolution. And you've got the, England coming to say they're going to wipe you out because you've defied them. And then you have all the war with the Native Americans over land and scalping and
Mm.
trade. And then I started thinking about the migration to the West. If you're going to be a pioneer and you're going to go discover, you know, the way far West, Kansas, uh, all
Yeah.
that, the sickness and the wagon trains and all the risks you take. And, people have lived through incredibly adventurous times. And that made me think about animals, insects, whatever that have a lifespan of like 2 weeks. I think like
Yeah.
there are bees that live for 2 weeks. They probably have no awareness of their own mortality. But if you knew that, the average lifespan of humans was 50, you would be jamming in a whole lot more living before 50 than most of us do because we have the illusion we're going to live to 100.
Hmm. Yeah. So do you mean that in these times it kind of puts a fire under you? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it puts strips away what doesn't matter, and it gives you
Totally.
laser clarity about what matters most, which is going to end up being this small circle of your family, your friends, the people you're going to take risks with and defend and fight for. Uh, I think it simplifies life.
Yeah. In my hardest era, which was after a car accident I brought up before, we were
Hmm.
hit by a drunk driver. And it's funny because it was my first real suffering of my life. And I remember being so shocked to find it was just as bad as I'd always thought it would be. When I was before that, I was like, man, it would be so awful if something like that happened. Just your life changed in a blink of an eye. And it really was. And I kind of had hoped that if it actually did happen, I'd go, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It was pretty rough. But
Yeah.
so later when I am dealing with some of the anxieties from it, and I'm imagining another thing like that happening. What if it
Hmm.
happened again?
Hmm.
And I remember to what I lost in the era of surviving, of just day to day, just get through the day.
Yeah.
And everything to speak for myself, everything I lost was a distraction. So like, yeah, it's
Mm.
tough to not be able to spend your time just how you want, or to for the thing you're most concerned about that day, or most thinking about is what are we gonna do for dinner tonight. It's tough when the challenges are beyond that, when
Yeah.
they are more existential and panicked.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a bit later about resiliency through community. That was absolutely strength tested and proven true. You know, the your relationship with God, like all of the things. It's the parable of the thorns in many ways. The thorns that choke out the seed of the work of God
Hmm.
in the gospel parable is the worries, anxieties, and pleasures of this life.
And riches, worries, riches,
That's
and
right,
yeah.
riches and pleasures. So in these kinds of times, two of those are gone. One of them is probably pretty robust during
Yeah.
those times,
Yeah.
but it's a real. That's the kind of the by looking at these past lives, not past lives like that, past humans who have survived things like that.
Sure. Sure.
You see this play out
Well,
of
when
kind
you
of stripped
think,
down to the
yeah, when you think about, I want to survive today.
yeah
That's a really focused. I'm in the moment, in the present. That's kind of a powerful thing. Now, reconcile this for me, John, because in the 1024, you mentioned that the the outcome, the future, is way more boring than you think it will be.
yeah
But you just said when I thought about how awful it would be to be hit by a drunk driver, it turned out to be just as bad as you thought it would be. How do you reconcile
yeah.
those two thoughts?
Well, the future being boring is more speculative for world events.
Yeah, like
So
global future or national future.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if you
economic future.
think about what you would have thought a global influenza pandemic would have looked like, and then
Hmm.
think about what it did look like.
Hmm.
So there were no roving bands of marauders with baseball bats with screws plowed through them, you know,
It didn't make for
on
great
like
TV. Yeah.
No, it ended up being everyone tweeting and sitting alone in their home and gaining weight and being paranoid, and it was interesting in a different way, in a very human way,
Yeah.
but not like you thought it was.
Yeah.
Or uh so the
So you're talking
exceptions to
about
this,
our COVID influenza pandemic.
yes, yeah,
That's the one you're talking about, not
right,
not a historical one, but that
right,
one.
that one.
Yeah, because when it all
So
broke out, it's like, is this going to be a blizzard or an ice age? That's what I
yeah,
remember a lot of people asking that question when it first started. Is the COVID era going to be a blizzard where we're all hunkered down for, 4 days while the snow melts? Or is it going to be an ice age where this changes the world?
totally.
And
But
then
I
it
have
turned out to do a little bit of both.
a little bit of both for sure. Definitely. Well, it depends on the scale you're using.
Yeah,
There's more Ice Age than Blizzard as far as years go,
right.
but more Blizzard than Ice Age as far as decades go.
Yeah,
I have more to say about that. That's a great question on future trauma in relation to past trauma.
yeah.
Well, I'll talk more about that in our anxiety and worry quarter.
So answer this, and then we'll go to quarter two. How did people in these past generations who endured these meaningful, chaotic, stressful times, how did they have meaningful lives in the middle of it?
Those same way anybody gets meaning anytime is through impact in relation to other human beings. There is no, I think the 1024 said isolation is a greater threat to you than any war, cataclysm, or scarcity combined.
Yeah.
All of those things are less of a threat to you as a person than isolation. So I think that
Hmm.
pans out. Action movies be damned. When you look at real lives
Yeah.
in real history, they all survived through community.
Yeah. You have the movies that make that, the Book of Eli, where but even he picks up a straggler or two on the way that become a significant part of his posse. When you talk
Yeah.
about one last thought here, when you talk about distractions disappear, in a season of you have to laser focus because it's chaotic. Uh, what distractions do you think of that fall away, that are normal distractions when life is smooth?
Yeah, I would call them abundance distractions. So things like, what am I going to do with my evening? Or for me, it's so much entertainment based,
Yeah.
you know.
Which concert am I going to go to? Am I going to,
Yeah.
yeah, will I watch the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah. So it's, when I was a kid, this is embarrassing to talk about, but it's true. When I was a kid and you hear about 1,000 years in the courts of heaven,
Yeah.
and I would just go, that sounds more boring than anything in the world. I'd rather go to school for 7 days a week than go to the courts of heaven for 1,000 years. It's like church. I'm gonna be on my knees in church for 1,000 years. That's what I thought when I was in high school.
Right.
When
Right.
you're in a time of pain, when you're in a
Yeah.
time of survival and pain, I, the thoughts of a blissful, worshipful peace for 1,000 years on my knees before God would make me cry on the spot. Just the thought of it.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of mindset shift I'm talking about, from an abundance the disciplines or meaningful relationship is a distraction from how I want to spend my time, as opposed to I am dying and I need these things, the true things.
Yeah. You made me think of when I was 16 and my dad found out he had cancer. So he finds out in March, right after my birthday, that he's got cancer, and he died in September. So it's a very, March to September, it feels like in hindsight a very short time. But when I'm
Yeah.
living it out, those days are very long, and we're spending them in very focused ways. At first he's in the hospital for a stretch. And so we're at the hospital every day. I go to school, go to the hospital, go to school, go to the hospital. Our family was very tight and focused on what we're about. Then he gets out of the hospital, and we are doing as many family events as we can. We're going to every healing service within 100 miles so that he can, God could heal him. We are playing golf. Him and my brother and I are playing golf. And when he got too weak to play golf, he just wanted to sit in the cart with us while we played golf.
Mm,
So, and then he went back in the hospital for like the last 3 weeks of his life. So, while that is a compressed period of time, it felt very long.
sure.
And some of my most significant memories with him occurred in that window of time. So that really speaks to what you're saying about, these the noise of the world, really, the static goes away, and you get really acutely aware of
Yeah.
what around you right now.
Yeah. Compare that to a summer with your dad before, which you guys still spent a lot of good quality time together,
Yeah.
but the focus was probably uncomparable
Yeah.
in the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So let's finish quarter one, which we've been talking about finishing for a few minutes, uh, with actionable items. We really want to, as a habit now, it's been working the last few episodes, and we want every quarter to give you some actionable ideas. And these can be in the podcast notes, so you can find them, or you can pause and write them down or whatever. But here's some actionable ideas. John, I'll do a couple, you do a couple.
Sure.
First is the idea of studying resilience, like read biographies of people who lived in wartime, or who lived through the Depression, or who navigated economic hardships, or who were in the middle of a technological revolution that changed the world. So study resilience. How did these people do that? What was life like for them, and what did they do that turned out to be incredibly wise? So you could learn from that. Secondly, I would say limit catastrophic thinking. It's very easy when you hear dramatic predictions about the future to spend a lot of time uh, worried about that. And so instead, be thinking about, has something like this happened before? What did it actually do to the world? People did come out the other end, uh,
Mm,
but really try to avoid the panicked, catastrophic thinking. Um, when Iran threatens to destroy America because they're so mad, they have threatened that many, many times in my lifetime.
mm,
And while I am not uh, thrilled about the fact that we invaded Iran and that we're at war with them, I also temper the noise they make with historic ability of our military to protect us. Blah 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 blah. So just try to limit your catastrophic thinking and your sense of panic.
sure. Another one we'd say, a third actionable item, focus on timeless practices. So this kind of calls back to the Lewis quote before:
Yeah,
working hard, loving your family, serving others, growing spiritually. There's a kind of a, in that quote, part of the part we cut out was that he says one of the modern benefits is, what does he say? Anesthesia, basically, is pain medication.
yeah. People
And we,
used to have surgery without that.
yeah, he says apart from that, it's all the same. So congrats on the pain medication. But the human practices here, I find so much peace in the that this is not a new. These kinds of threats aren't new.
Yeah,
Uh, so those kinds of focus. I want to talk a lot about community, but we're going to get to that in one of our later quarters. That's to me is the action item of this episode is to do with community. So we'll get there.
yeah. And when you talk about timeless practices, I picture the family sitting around the living room staring at the radio while they listen to a radio show,
Yeah,
versus watching Netflix and streaming it mindlessly for hours. For Lent, Sue and I gave up TV, and so we're sitting around with soft music playing and we're reading books, and it's incredible.
yeah,
And so those are those timeless practices: is have more conversations and explore more ideas instead of just zombieing out in front of something.
absolutely, absolutely. Action item four would be practice normal life. So this is actually more what the Lewis activities are: learning, exercising, building friendships. His examples: bathing the children,
Yeah.
hanging out at the pub with your friends.
Pulling
So
weeds
the
in your yard and planting your flowers.
yeah,
Yeah.
this would be, he says, let the bomb find us doing these things. So this would be, if your worries are founded, like just because the Iran conflict is not novel doesn't mean it's not scary. Like
Yeah.
it is scary. Like if you have family in the service, or if you're in the service,
Yeah.
that's a real frightening thing. It's not completely diminished by being that it's happened before,
Yeah.
but don't but allow yourself to still live your life and being in the present, which I believe we talk about later. Yeah, within the anxiety quarter three, we'll talk about being present and anxiety.
Hmm.
That really enables you. It's a you think keeping the whole world in your sight is more freeing, but if you limit it to this myopic modern
Yeah.
sight, then you're actually free. You're free to live. So we'll talk more about that in quarter three.
I love that. When I was in college, Billy Graham came to speak at a chapel service for our school, which was a huge deal. And so he spoke, and he said this: "What if you knew Jesus was coming back and the rapture was going to happen on Friday? This was like a Tuesday. And what if you know that's going to happen? What would you do?"
Mm,
And he said, I know what you're thinking because I'm an evangelist. You're thinking that I would think you should go witness to everybody you know who doesn't know Jesus because Friday he's coming back. And he said, that's not my answer. My answer is study for the exam you have next Monday
Mm,
because God put you on this campus to get your degree and to prepare for a future. And there's no reason you should alter that reality until he tells you to. So be faithful to what you've been assigned, uh, no matter what the era of the future foretells. And I really found a lot of peace in that.
yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
All right, quarter two, John.
Yeah. Let's get into it. So this will be your sphere of influence starting local. So we talked a lot about this. Real fans will remember the Upstream podcast. This was a common theme with the Upstream podcast. Was that one was less focused on an issue as specific as we are.
Yeah.
So we often were tempted to talk about current events more.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this sort of tension of an oddness to talk about things, a compulsion to of a feeling like you should do something for a big crisis, and then a sense of futility. So it was my conviction that the futility you feel for national and international crises is just real. The reason you feel that futility is
Mm-hmm.
because it's real. You don't have the power to solve those things. So and when people are obsessed with the national and international crises, they neglect their actual influence, which is local, which is, we have I love where I live. I love Tenino. I live in Tenino, Washington. And there's a man here named Keith Phillips, and he is a stone carver, a sandstone carver. Tenino is
Mm-hmm.
known for its sandstone quarries. If you've seen the Capitol Dome in Olympia, it's made with Tenino sandstone. If you've seen the book stack pillars outside of Powell's in Portland, the iconic book stacks, that was carved by Keith Phillips with Tenino sandstone, and it had died off. There were no Tenino sandstone carvers, and then Keith wanted to make something for, I believe, his wife. I interviewed him for the paper when I worked there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to start with marble. And he's like, well, no, that's kind of hard. And it's in time there's sandstone everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he got a job as a night guard at the quarry, and he would just work on his projects, carving sandstone all the time.
While he's protecting the place.
Yes. Yeah. From who knows what. But now, so that was maybe 30 or 40 years ago.
Wow.
Now he is a local hero. He's revived the tradition. Now he has, I think, six or so kind of disciples
Apprentices. Yeah.
apprentices that work in his workshop and they wear the traditional garb.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's not even politics.
Yeah.
That's not even the mayor of the town, or if you're on the town council, or if you want it
Yeah.
to be to know your local representative for your congressional district.
Yeah.
Or to work for your library. These are like serious, real things that have impacts on real people. But we assume if it's not online, and it couldn't be seen by potentially millions, in all actuality, a few dozen, then it's not real. It's a complete inversion of how life actually works.
We talk about culture creation a lot. Like this is one of my favorite ideas is you create culture every time you do something with something that already exists.
Yeah, I love that.
So when you are betrayed, if you get revenge, you declare a culture that the right thing to do when you get betrayed is to go get revenge.
Mhm.
Versus when you forgive, you create culture that says the right thing to do when you're betrayed is to forgive. So we create culture all the time with what we do when we do so, and that has its biggest impact in the local compressed environment. So you have the opportunity to make your greatest contribution to the world at the local level, and it's surprising how few people it would take to create a movement and at the local setting. You look at that sandstone guy,
Mhm.
there are, what'd you say, 5 or 6 apprentices who've
Mhm.
now chosen a career path because that guy did what he did. And so strong communities are built by people who take responsibility where they live
Mhm.
and bring culture creation where they live. And those don't have to be people who hold an office or who run the biggest business in town.
Yeah. And have you ever heard of, Dad? Have you ever heard about like a program somewhere, like, or a church somewhere, or at my church there was this thing we did,
Mm,
and you go, why can't everyone do that?
yeah.
Why isn't that? You know, I'm struggling to think of an example here, but we'll just stick with Keith Phillips. If you go, why can't my town have a cool artisanal workshop on the historic drag where they did it before, across from the old quarry? And then you think, well, Could you start something like that? I'm not a craftsman. It would be a travesty. You would have just broken rocks everywhere. It'd be awful. But other needs. If you think about what do you wish, what have you heard about in other towns that you wish could be in your town?
Well, you
And
think
then and
about,
then meeting that need.
yeah, you think about our local library, John. I'm crazy about our local libraries here. And one of the
Yeah.
things, one of the library branches has a workspace, and you can go in there, and they got 3D printers, and they've got table saws and all kind of stuff, and you can go in there and just create stuff, and it's
Mm,
totally free. And you can design something, bring your file, and print a 3D print of it, and it costs you nothing. You just have to settle for whatever color is in the printer at the time. But then there's podcast studios and video studios, and you can check out free of charge. Like a GoPro. You can get tickets to events at discounted prices or even for free. All this stuff that's available to you at your local community that most people don't even know about,
hmm
and that is a group of people who saw the value that the arts is the same way. A community either embraces the arts or neglects the arts, and it's typically based on how many artists or art lovers live among them. So you can create a
Yeah.
movement toward art or toward history or toward, I sometimes I drive through these little bitty towns, and there is a Vietnam Vets Memorial. This town has one
Mm.
stoplight, and there's a Vietnam Vets Memorial right there. One of the dog parks I go to, right outside the dog park, is this memorial to a soldier in the community who died in battle. And somebody said, let's make a memorial there. So you just have the opportunity to make a lot of local impact, but impact is not really the focal point of this idea, John. So let's dial it in a little better. You're saying when in times of instability or chaos, why is it especially important to stay local?
So twofold. We've talked a lot about in our economics episode and things like that about how taking action is helpful for the actual problem and it's helpful for your brain.
Mm,
It's twofold. It might be even more for the second one than the first one. So this is twofold. This is you will feel better about your control because you're closer to reality. You cannot control what happens in Iran unless
right.
you're one of three people in America right now.
Yeah.
So I will have a broad claim because that's such an insignificant number of people. I will say you have no control over what happens in Iran right now.
Right.
That's true. And if you accept that and go, but you do have more control than you think, or at least more than you've been utilizing in
Mm-hmm.
your hometown,
Yeah.
even if you live in a big town. We're kind of we're talking about this kind of small town truth, but I would say it's true in Denver. You probably have even more opportunities because there's all of the suburbs and the huge population and
Yeah, well, you've
uh
got you've got your state, you've got your big city, then you got your
yeah
suburb, then you got your town, then you got your neighborhood, then you got your HOA.
yeah.
Then there's circles of that,
Well,
and
I'll be
yeah,
very concrete with this. So when I wrote in Lewis County for a publisher, I covered the county commissioners meeting every week, and they would have hearings for some bills, and 90% of them or some actions, there'd be nobody there.
mm,
Eventually, they'd get a little close to a nerve, something with what's it called when they can take some land.
oh, it's yeah when they I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, anyway, when some things would get closer to a nerve and you'd get 2 dozen people maybe if it was a big deal, or if it was kind of feel good like turning the county into a Purple Heart County, then
or
you get a lot of
Bucky's is
voters.
coming to town.
Yeah, that'll be the day.
The NIMBY issues, not in my backyard.
Yes, yeah. So think about like if you were to actually read your local paper and show up and give a citizen testimony for your county commissioners, you're going to be one of three people doing that. That's real stuff. Those
Yeah,
kind of there's normally five of them.
yeah,
That actually matters to them. I will say normally. So that's the kind of concrete stuff we're talking about. Of it's your actual sphere of influence as opposed to one that you don't really have,
yeah.
and it's good for your mental health as far as you know taking action where you can.
People daydream, young men daydream about being on the free throw line. There's no time left on the clock. You're down by one and you get two free throws, and I'm going to make
Mhm.
these two shots and win the game. But they never practice their free throws. And so they're not going to be ready for that moment because you haven't been preparing for that moment. You think about crises and turbulence in the world. What happens when you need your neighbors? What happens
Mm.
when you need to rally together and support one another if you don't even know who your neighbors are? So uh, if you're anxious about where the world is going, That's no better reason than that one to start meeting and naming your neighbors and offering hospitality to one another and having a connection to as many humans as possible in your community, because that'll pay in spades if what you are anxious about actually starts to happen.
Absolutely. And that's that communal resiliency. We'll talk more about in quarter four. Just keep teasing you guys throughout the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Quarter four is faith, community, and strength through hardship. So we'll talk a huge part of this conversation, the local conversation, is the church,
Yeah.
and we'll talk more about that in chapter four. But yeah, I think this is incredibly powerful. Dad, I'm going to put you on the spot, and you can reflect it back to me, and I'll also have a bad answer. Do
Okay.
you know the leaders in your city or town? Do you know your representatives?
For my local community, like my mayor and my city
Yeah,
council,
yeah, yeah.
I do not. I do not. I get updates from them and I read them. And if I needed to communicate to them, I know how to find them, but I don't know them by name.
Well, that's all right. I know my mayor pro tem because she's the one I voted for. I forget the name of the guy who actually won,
Oh, okay.
and I don't know any of the counselors. I just know Keith Phillips. If I know him, then I'm
Yeah.
good to go.
Well, sometimes I think I wish I could change the world. Yeah, the world's losing its mind. I wish I could change the world. Well, you can't change the world, but it's like the kid on the walking the beach, and all these starfish have walked up with the tide, and they're sitting there in the sand, and he's throwing starfish back into the ocean. And this dude walks up and says, "There's thousands of these. You really think you can make a difference?" And he holds up one. He says, "Well, I'm making a difference to this one," and he throws it in the water.
Mm,
And that's the beauty of local is I might not be able to change the world, but I can help change this world that I'm living in, this local space, and I can help change the world for the people that live near me.
yeah,
And that's a empowering attitude to have in this kind of turbulent times. So
absolutely.
let's get to action items, John.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
got four. Go ahead, take a couple of those, and let's talk about things you might actually begin to do.
Yeah. So, just like our question said, learn your local leadership. I will, I'm being very hypocritical, not knowing my actual mayor and council, but learn their names and their representatives. That's if we talk about basically your corner,
Mm-hmm.
but the structure of our government in America is layers. So like by the time you get to your congressional representatives, that's pretty legit. I mean, that's where real stuff for your state at least and for the nation and sometimes
I was in a
happens.
room. I was in a room with a state, a federal, a state representative, so a member of Congress, and he was doing Q&A with people, and he said somebody asked a question about how he knows when to really step up, and he mentioned, well, when I realize that a topic is a hot topic for my constituents, I pay close attention. So I asked, how do you know it's a hot topic with your constituents? How many
Hmm.
people does it take? He said 15. Like if he gets 15 emails or phone
Wow.
calls, he knows that is a very volatile topic. 15.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
that is amazing. So you can make a difference there.
Yeah. Then it would be once you know them, and even apart from that, and I will pledge to repair my hypocrisy. By the next episode, I will have learned these people's names.
Okay.
Participate locally will be our second action item. Attend a town hall or community meeting. Volunteer with a local organization. Dad, you had this dream before you moved uh, to start a community dinner every month. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. In Tenino.
Yeah, and
I'd
so
already
that's
negotiated with this wedding venue there on Main Street, and she was going to give me the space for $200 a night.
yeah,
And I would have it for the entire day to set up the buffet, and we were going to have people take turns providing meals. I already had a team. We ended up preparing to move to Colorado instead, but I was really fired up about that. And the
I
only
was too.
agenda was, hey, we all live in this town. Let's have a meal once a month together
Yeah,
and see each other's faces.
yeah. I mean, I feel like because I won't get into it, but small towns feel almost as disconnected as a big city,
No
maybe
doubt about
more.
it. Yeah.
And there are ways to repair that. So those are the two action items I would say.
Okay. Give you two more. Strengthen your neighborhood relationships. So meet your neighbors. It's really tough because people pull in, open the garage door from the car. When they get out of the car, they're shutting the garage door and you don't see them again. So it can be hard. But when you meet people on dog walks or whatever, introduce yourself, offer help when somebody needs it.
Mm,
If you live where you get snow like I do, shovel your neighbor's driveway or their sidewalk. So strengthen your neighborhood relationships. And then lastly, build some practical skills. uh, learning about leadership, learning about communication, learning about organizing things or problem solving. Build some practical skills that you can add value to your community, particularly in a crisis.
Yeah, those are great.
All right,
Okay,
halftime, John.
halftime. Burp, burp. Uh, before we get to quarter three, it's my favorite part of every episode, the book recommendations. And Dad, you got a little bit of a theme going on. What's your book for this week?
My book for this week is another David McCullough book, and it is Mornings on Horseback. And this book is the story of an extraordinary family, a vanished way of life, and the unique child who became Theodore Roosevelt. This book did not win him a Pulitzer, but it did win the National Book Award the year he put it out. So, and there's a New York Times endorsement. We have no better social historian. But because we were talking
Hmm.
about resiliency in other times, it made me think about this book
Yeah.
and the one I'm reading right now about Harry Truman, which is incredible, John. Uh, John made a promise to me that if I read a 1,000-page book, he would certainly read it because he would never pick up a 1,000-page book. And it is incredible. I'm only like on page 50 or 60, and I am captivated. I'm reading it out loud to Sue. She's loving it. It's awesome, man. So there
That's
you go.
great.
That's my book. What do you got?
Uh, I will say first that Lonesome Dove is 1,000 pages, so I have done it before,
Oh,
but
okay.
it takes something, you know, it takes a special book.
Sure.
I was gonna do a post-apocalyptic book to kind of tease about the world ending, but then I
A World War
realized,
III book,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
or a zombie apocalypse book.
Yeah, well, I was gonna, well, I'll save it for later. Won't spoil it. But then I realized my favorite book about this exact topic we are talking about of human resiliency in insurmountable
Mm-hmm,
odds
mm-hmm.
with a happy ending, because the Christian story, the thing we believe in, is a true
Happy
happy
ending.
ending.
Yeah.
For they lived happily ever after. That's a real thing that we believe in.
Yeah.
The power of that, and
Yeah.
that is the Lord of the Rings. I'll do all three together because I don't really have anything to say about them individually. Just the
Okay.
over, they all bleed together anyway. This is a collection I got for Christmas of some vintage covers. They're so cool. There's the Fellowship with Hobbiton. I won't go through all of them, but Tolkien was a World War I vet.
Mm,
The way he describes this kind of dread as you get towards Return of the King and the final battles, and these forces kind of overwhelming, the odds getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and people facing down certain death, and then the hope through it all, the humanity through it all.
yeah.
I mean, it's one of those that's like, oh, real original. I never knew how I would like these books. I'm not huge on fantasy books. I've tried others since this series. They are. I don't care if you're a big jock like my dad and you don't like swords and shields and magic. You got to read Lord of the Rings. It is like it's it's just amazing, and it was seriously moving and um uh edifying. That's the word. It was very edifying for our
Yeah.
modern times.
The challenge for me with those books, John, is learning all those people's names and the places and the villages and keep them. I feel like I need a legal pad next to me to track all these things that overlap. And
Yeah.
I get that's too much work for me. I don't want to work that hard.
Well, that's up
So
to you.
yeah, yeah. All right. Quarter number three, John, which is master the present. This is how we're going to reject anxiety and worry. We're going to master the present. We're going to be fully present in the moment in which we're living right now. So walk us through, John. Frame this up.
Yeah. So I was shown a graph recently. It is on one side the past, and it's depression related, depressive related. Your shames, regrets, what could have been, and then there's straight line the future. That's anxiety related. What could be? What if I fail? What if
Mm,
worry? And then you go from most of us, if you struggle with these kinds of things, you bounce from one to the other. You ping pong back and forth from the past depressive side to the future anxious side, and the whole time you're just sailing over the present, right in the middle.
mhm.
And the even if you so say that there's something you fail at regularly, say you have a problem, a consistent problem, even then you go, well, I am failing. That is still the future. You have now made the future the present in this exact moment. Say you have an anger problem. I am continually angry.
Mhm.
You can by saying that you have put the future in the present, and you are now helpless because you've just made it inevitable. You have to accept the present moment.
Yeah.
You are not failing right now. You have failed, and there's a high likelihood you will, but that's not here yet. This
Yeah.
is here. You have to
Yeah.
worry about now. So I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it seems like the gift that keeps on giving. It seems like presence is it's relational 92 octane gasoline. It's mental health medicine.
Hmm.
It's everything. Presence is and it is something that the modern world has completely taken a John Deere, lawnmower to.
Everything we live in is designed to keep you out of the present moment.
Mhm.
And I think you're really fired up about this, John, and it excites me to see you fired up about that. But you're not exaggerating the truth. I mean, the power of being present for your relationships. I go to restaurants and I look at families all around the table, and everybody's staring at their phone. Nobody's in the moment.
Mhm.
And you made me think of the line from Top Gun Maverick, one of the greatest movies ever. The future's coming, Maverick, and you're not in it.
Yeah.
Maybe so, sir, but not today.
You could learn a million life lessons from Top Gun Maverick.
You sure can. You
That's
can.
the.
We were watching it again this week.
I thought you were giving up TV,
Well, I had my
not Top
Sabbath.
Gun Maverick.
Yeah. No, I had my. I get to watch TV on the Sabbath. That's all.
Oh,
That.
okay, okay.
Yeah. The Lent is 40 days, not counting Sabbath days. So that's why it's like
And he
48
said,
days.
"With this cherished day, I will watch Top Gun
I
Maverick
shall
for the
watch a
70th time."
portion of Top Gun Maverick. Didn't watch the whole thing, but I did get to that line. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, let's talk about the power of being in the present. Why is that so powerful?
So again, it is when you live in the other two times, which again are not in the physical sense real, in the material sense. You cannot. That's my desk. That's right now. It is 3:34 p.m. on a Monday. That's here. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this is where decisions happen. So we've talked a lot about intentionality, about indecision being a decision that if you neglect to make decisions, they're made for you by neglect. When you live in those other times, that's how that works. Oh, I would love to have a strong community. Oh, I'm really worried about this thing. And you live in these ruminations and desires and what ifs instead of planning is one thing you can do in the present for the future. If you don't
Yeah.
have time to do what you want to do right now, plan it out. That is an action in itself. But it all happens in now. You talked about technology with uh, your families around the dinner table. I had this realization. I'll do a shameless plug for my Substack right now. I wrote an essay about this. I think it's just at John Ladd. Yeah, I realized when I was writing this, every single, probably throughout a day, the majority, I'll say 60% to be conservative, of words that your brain recognizes as words were spoken or written in the past at a different time and place about the future. And so
Mm.
think about the time before recording, before digital and visual recording. Every word that came to your ears was spoken by a person in front of you in real time.
Mm.
Now that's a not rare, but a less common way to experience words than people speaking. And that is an intensely modern problem. Now it's the present is completely neglected in our communicative technology.
What jumps out at me is you said a statement that's just like poof. When you are thinking about the past or the future, you are occupying the present with something that's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist. So the
Yeah.
past doesn't exist anymore. That's gone. You failed in the past. That doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It's not here. And when you're worried about what's coming, that doesn't exist yet. It's not even here. It's not real. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing that's real is now, right now. And that is a powerful thing mentally to help me even think about why am I occupying my mental energy and time and emotions on stuff that isn't even real anymore or not real yet. That's a that feels like a logic problem that gives me some inspiration.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad sometimes you get fired up about stuff. You never know. I'm glad
Yeah.
it resonates with you at least.
Yeah. And most of the things you fear never happen. So not only does the future not exist yet, it's not going to exist the way you imagine it. So
Yeah.
you're spending untold amounts of energy, anxiety, and worry, 95% of which, or 90% of which will never happen.
Yeah.
The 10% that does happen, 5% of it's out of your control. So
Yeah.
you're spending 100% of your worry when there's 5% of that you have actually any agency over. So it is the monumental waste of energy, time, and worry.
Well, now I forgot that I was going to answer a question, another answer to your question
Mm-hmm.
before about how if what I experienced was just as bad as I thought it was, then how do I reconcile the future?
Yeah.
And in a particularly anxious season, I was talking to you about this, about how because I have some medical anxiety uh, through all that, how I don't want to go to a hospital ever again. And I was telling you um, how I'm anxious that inevitably I will have to be. I've never been hospitalized, and that is an inevitability. And you said that you knew an 85-year-old dude who had never once been hospitalized.
Yeah.
He just was lucky that way,
Yeah.
and it made me realize that unless your fear is death itself, like we're talking about with Lewis, death is a certainty. That's a tough one. That's a different level of overcoming because you have to accept it as a certainty,
Yeah.
the same that every other human has. Unless it's that, none of these are certain. None of your worries are certain. And imagine you get to the end of your life, and maybe it's even shorter because you lived it so fretfully. Imagine you get to the end of your life and the thing you were so worried about never once happened.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you're worried about something terrible happened to your kids, an awful, awful thought, and it ruins your time with your children. Then you're at your deathbed, they're 60, and nothing happened to them. They're fine. They got good families. And you were less present when they were young because you were so scared of something happening to them.
So you're carrying that Corey Ten Boom quote. You're carrying tomorrow's load with today's energy,
Yeah.
and you're also spending today's time and relationship opportunity on either the past or the future instead of spending it where it counts right here now. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the last thing I want to say about all this is that media cycles are designed to amplify fear, and so is social media. Everything's clickbait, trying to get you. They want to work up an emotion and get a reaction out of you.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the important ways to protect yourself from that. One of the ways to stay in the present is to get off social media. John and I have a constant struggle with using social media to communicate to young men and the people who love them, while we also think nobody should be on social media. The world would be a better place if it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So I would say, turn the stupid TV off and get off your screens because those are anxiety producers. And it's hard to be in the present when the screen you're looking at is trying to lull you into the past or the future.
And there's a level of guilt you might feel, or I'm missing something important. You can schedule out your news consumption to one day a week. Oh, I'm subscribed to the Pour Over. I think we both are,
Yeah, the pour
which
over is
is
great.
really good. Just a consolidated, I think thrice weekly or somewhere thereabouts. News condensation is what I want to say, but it's been condensed. And it's great. And then you don't owe them anything. In fact, even if you didn't subscribe to that, you owe the people that God's given to you more than you owe any of those. And if I met a guy who was faithful to his family and didn't know we had just bombed Iran or at war, I would go, I don't know what I'd do. I'd give him $20. I'd go, hey, you're doing okay. You're doing good. Don't feel dumb for not knowing about this stuff
Yeah.
because you're focused. You're on the right stuff. If you didn't know that because you were busy jerking around and wasting time and being isolated, that's a different thing. But
We've talked about before that ancient man, had the ability to keep up with current events in their village. They wouldn't have any idea what's going on 10 miles away in another village. And so that we weren't designed to carry the stress of global communities and global crises.
yeah,
And yet now we got all this information. So let's get to action items here, John.
yeah,
I'll do the first couple, and then you chime in with a couple more. These are actionable ideas to help you with anxiety and worry. Number one, write down your worries. Like if you're really worried about something, if you're worried about being drafted back into the military for World War III, write your worries down and put them into two lists. And those two lists are things that I can act on and things that I cannot control. and then limit your energy to the list of things you can take action on. And anything that's on the list that I cannot control, you need to remove that, because any energy devoted to that is a waste of time. So focus on the things you can control, because now you have some freedom and personal input on how those things go.
Yeah.
Secondly, schedule your actions. If you can influence a problem, then schedule some steps to address that problem. If you're concerned about something and you actually have the ability to influence it, then influence it, make a plan, and start to take some action.
Those are great. I'll condense some of these other ones to what we're saying. Physically spend less time in digital media.
Mm-hmm.
Pick if you. I hate silence. I'm totally brain rotted that way. Same as other people. I do it as a way to the present, and I like it in times like that. But if your option is to play instrumental music while you read,
Mm-hmm.
do that. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
still better for your brain. It's better for your presence. And I would say getting outside is a huge part of this. There's an Eastern
Mm.
Orthodox poet, Grant Pardune. He wrote a book called "Consider the Blank." It's from the parable. It's from the not the parable. It's Jesus talking about the ravens. Consider the ravens. Consider the
Or the lilies.
or the lilies. I think the collection of poetry is called "Consider the Lilies."
Yeah.
But he has this practice of praying barefoot in the grass. He's kind of a hippie that way,
Mm.
but it does this exact thing that we're talking about. This grounding, literally in that case,
Yeah.
to the present moment. So things like that. Get outside where you can hear wind, even if you're in the middle of a suburb or a city. Hearing noises that are happening in the present, apart from yourself. So do that for me, and spend any amount of less time, preferably a good amount of less time. Any amount is good for you on digital media.
Love it. All right, quarter four, we're coming to the end here. We're in the home stretch. Faith, community, and strength through hardship. Uncertainty does not mean that life lacks purpose or that it's coming to an end. Believers trust God that God is redeeming all of this, and there is a future where He's going to reconcile the world. So, in the meantime, hardships shape our character, community strengthens resilience, and faith provides hope. So, it's really powerful to now, being in the present, you also focus on these things that God is at work. The future's secure in His hands. So now let's get about doing this thing here. So talk to me, John. Talk to me, Goose.
You're stuck, man. You're in a rut. Um, okay, resilient community. This is again a twofold. So we say taking action is good for the actual action you're taking, and it's good for your
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah.
A resilient community is good for the people other than you. It's really altruistic that way, that you are now loving and assisting other people. And it's good in a very practical way when we talk about crises. So if you say, man, Iran's got me stressed, the only thing you can do to make yourself more resilient is have a stronger community. You think, oh, I would hate if some of this flooding or an earthquake or a tornado disrupted my community and tore apart these houses. The number you could store up food and water. It's not a bad idea. But the other way you could prepare for that is resilient community,
Yeah.
investing in your neighbors, investing in your people. We've talked about this before, Dad. When you moved to Colorado during that crazy car accident time, I relied on you guys a ton. I was
Yeah.
very reliant on you.
Yeah.
Grown man, married, but I needed so much help. And one of my big stressors when you were leaving was, what if this happens, something like this happens again, and I need that level of help again?
Yeah.
And since then, we've invested in other community, and it's been apparent to me. I haven't had to test it, thank God.
Yeah.
But if I needed a 2 a.m. phone call, I've got four dudes off the top of my head right now who would pick up, and they would be there. And
Yeah.
same for me. If I got that call, I'm there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's twofold. It's one, I love these men. These are my brothers. And two, that's peace of mind. That's real preparation. That's resilient community. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I'm watching a new show with Sue on Sunday. We jammed in the first 3 episodes that are available, and it's called The Madison. And
Hmm.
it's on Paramount Plus, and it's really, really good. It's a Taylor Sheridan thing, but it's totally different than
Oh
anything he's
yeah,
ever done.
Kurt Russell, right?
Yeah. And in one scene, the gal calls her best friend. She's in Montana, and she calls her friend in New York City. and interrupts her friend's lunch. And she said, and her friend says, "What's going on?" She says, "Are you my friend?" "Yeah, no, tell me, are you my friend?" She said, "Yeah, you're my best friend." She said, "Then get on a plane. I need you here tomorrow." And she said, "I'll be
Mm,
there tomorrow. Give me an address, and I'll be there tomorrow morning." And that's what resilient community does. That's a meaningful thing to have somebody you could call and say, "I'm calling in a chit. I need you here."
yeah. Yeah.
But another part of this, John, is realizing that suffering and hardship make strong people. Hard
Hmm.
times make strong people. And let's just take the mystery away. You're going to have hard times.
Hmm.
Difficult things are coming your way. You're going to experience some level of suffering in your life. But the good news is, these are what make you an incredibly better person. So God doesn't waste that. And even if it is coming, start focusing a little bit on the fact that hardship refines my character, it strengthens my resolve, it teaches me new skills, it builds my community. I mean, everything actually comes out better on the opposite end, on the exit path of suffering.
And it's the kind of work where when you get to suffering, you talked about guys studying for the or preparing for the free throw line, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, the buzzer beater. I want to be on that line. I want to be
yeah.
the guy that does the buzzer beater, but they're not practicing their free throws. So the kind of preparation you do for suffering is not. It's not exactly like I'm going to have an
Mm-mm.
underground bunker with 1,000 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the kind of character work that we really believe in here. As far as there's a great book for this, Renovation of the Heart by Dallas Willard.
Man,
A real dictionary of a book. I mean, I'd have to read every paragraph 2 or 3 times,
it's unbelievable.
but it's amazing. Yeah. And this is the kind of where you're going to be okay either way, but the suffering will have a more edifying effect on you,
Hmm.
and you will have a more pleasant and honorable behavior during suffering if you have kind of what's the things we're talking about here: being present, having community, developing your spiritual life. It's the kind of training for this kind of crisis.
And what a crime it is to go through suffering and have nothing on the back end that came out better.
Mm-hmm.
That to waste your suffering by blame and misery and never looking to see the gold in the dirt and to see the value in the pain, and to find the community that it could lead you to. So what a tragedy to go through it and get nothing out of it. And conversely, what a powerful thing to milk it for all it can do for your life. It's a total attitude change.
Yeah. Dad, for your I'll ask you a question here. Your at least initial tragedy is the passing of your dad. It was so formational for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you imagine you are like in another reality where your dad didn't pass? What did that do? When you talk about your development, is what I mean in this conversation from that suffering.
Man, that's hard to even imagine, who I would be if my dad had lived till I was 50.
Yeah,
Um, there's some ways I would have been better. I would have
yeah,
had lots of phone calls, lots of front porch rocket chair conversations. In some ways, it would have been a resource I would have milked and gained value from. On the other hand, with the absence of that, there were a diversity of men who added enormous value to my life that I don't believe would have been there
mm,
or I would have pursued if I'd had him. So instead of having the perspective of one man who I deeply love and who fathered me, I've had the contributions of really maybe 7 men, and all with a lot of diversity. So that's one thing that
yeah.
I would have lost if I had not been a part of that. The other is my siblings and the bond that we have, by circling our wagons through grief and through helping my mom. So there's a whole lot of uh, shared suffering, camaraderie,
Hmm.
uh, that I would not have with my siblings. Those are a couple of things that come to mind.
So it's in no way to say that you're better off than if he had lived, but it is to say that the suffering had something for you. It had something unique for you.
That's
You
that's
know,
that's a great way to word it, because you would never say, "Boy, I would no, I would not be better off with my dad alive." That's certainly not true.
for sure.
But it's also true that there was enormous value added to my life from the suffering that I endured and the grief that I experienced.
Yeah, man. All right. Should we go to action items?
Yeah, let's do it. I want to do
Uh,
the first couple.
yeah,
Yeah,
you've
because
been really on this idea.
yeah, the first one is build your posse. I think I was in a men's group this morning at 6:15 with 20 guys, and I said every man needs a posse, and they giggled like like I don't know why that word's so funny, but I love the word posse because in the old
Mm,
days they would all put a posse together and they're gonna go after the bad guy together, and
mhm.
they're gonna go rope him and hang him. But you have this group of men, brothers, that have a shared mission, a commitment to each other, and an outcome they're going to go get together. And I love that concept. And I think every man needs a posse. And so cultivate relationships across uh, these layers, acquaintances, close friends, and deep, deep, deep partnerships. And I think, especially if you have diversity in your posse, so you have both diversity of culture, but even more diversity of skill, talent, wisdom, gift mix, because then you've got such a shared, uh, unstoppable resource together. Uh, so I think of, your posse needs to include, if you're not good with money, your posse needs to include somebody who's really good at
Mm,
money. If you're not good at marriage, you needed somebody in your posse who's a marriage ninja and they've really figured out how to move their marriage. If you struggle to understand the Bible, you need somebody in your posse who loves the Bible and they can talk to you about it. So the more diverse your posse is, the more powerful your life becomes and the more well resourced you are. So I emphasize here men who have a posse flourish when men who are isolated are just dying. So
yeah.
I can't emphasize that enough. That's a big deal to me. The second
If
one is related to that. Go ahead, John.
Well, only to say if you're young and you never heard that word, if you haven't watched a lot of westerns, it's POSSE. If you're going to Google that, that's what you're looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. And then you need to use it all the time because we need to bring that word back. It's a
Yeah.
great word.
Reclaim it.
Yeah. The second one's related to that, which is break bread regularly. Like get in a shared meal environment with another dude as often as you can. There's something powerful that happens when we have a meal together. This is why state leaders have a meal when they come together to
Mm,
communicate. There's just enormous power at the table, and so break bread with brothers. Do that often.
I love that. I would say action item for this quarter would be seeking opportunities in disruption. So this can be kind of local community focus, or it can be for career, economically. These things, these looming threats and disruptions. Every single one of them is an opportunity. So in this, it would be the people talk a lot about AI job loss.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go, okay, well, what needs will there be? Will there be new needs because of this AI
Yep.
problem? The answer is yes. And what will that be? And can you add value there?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it puts you in again. It does the actual practice of you might find a real opportunity.
Yep.
The other thing it does is it takes you from defense to offense. You're off your back foot. You're off just letting the world hit you with like waves, and you're just trying to stay upright. Instead, you're moving forward. You are now an agent. You are active
And
in the
a
world.
simple sentence for that for me is every negative change is also a green new path of opportunity for somebody.
Yeah,
And that's true economically. In a downturn, there's hidden opportunity that somebody's going to figure out and crack the code on. In career path, in relationship struggles, like every dark space has built in brand new opportunities if you're willing to look for them. And that gives you that sense of agency and empowerment to play offense instead of playing defense.
totally,
Yeah, that's a good
totally.
one, John.
Last I'd say is submit your plans to God. So
Mm,
before we went all in on the honest path, I prayed. I don't know how long, how many evenings
yeah.
submitting these plans to God. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't hear anything back, and I took that as a go for it. As if He didn't want me to, I trust that He would have
Yeah.
thrown a steel door right in my face
Yeah.
because I sought Him and I put these plans before Him. So I'm not an expert in discerning divine will for your life, but it is a good practice in especially when times are changing. If you have a big idea, oh, AI is coming, I got a big idea to make a real buck off of this. Submit your plans to God. This is, and it's an understanding that the will of God will be done. All this crazy stuff in the world.
Yeah,
Uh,
trusting his sovereignty. And
yes, yes,
but I think, John, you are inaccurate when you say you didn't hear anything, because you had a significant conversation with a friend who pointed out ultimate reality and your struggle
true.
to embrace it. And that was like clouds parting and a mic drop realization, aha moment for you. And I would say that was divinely ordained. So I would say God did speak to you.
Yeah, that was very helpful. A lot of great conversations and a lot of hindsight. The wordage we use in our most recent book, or our only book so far, is the beginning of masculinity. Is that the events of your life are like individual stars, and in hindsight, you might see a constellation, you might see an image,
Mm-hmm.
a path, a story, and so that definitely did happen. But I'm always self-interrogative of those things.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up with this thought. A meaningful life is not prevented because of unstable times. And often it is forged because of it. So have hope, get engaged, take a path. The world needs you. God loves you. We're on your team. Let us know if we can help you. Don't forget our last Thursday night of March, our online uh, community for young men and the people who love them. And so we hope you'll join us there. Watch for that link in your email and tell a friend. Right, John?
tell a,
Tell a friend.
tell a friend. Just at the 1024 or podcast email. Just go ahead and forward that if this feel like this would be helpful for anybody in your posse. Just
Yeah,
forward it on along.
that's right.
And also, if you want that ebook, every patron gets that just as part of their pledge for $10. So it's a huge support to keep this mission going, and we really appreciate you guys and are grateful for your time and your participation.
Thanks for your support. Thanks for being on the team, and God bless you.